Call the January 26th redevelopment meeting. Roll call, please.
Grant Hughes,
Here.
Tom Rogers, Aaron Cook,
Here.
Mike Lawrence,
Here.
Tony Bryant,
Here.
Tony Abbott,
Here.
That's Mr. Rogers.
and Leslie Votaw.
Here.
I believe we are here to discuss the Dearborn Plaza.
Yeah, as far as the Dearborn Plaza, there was a prior executive session where Mr. Votal, Joe Votal, came and talked to you all. He's handling the, unsafe building for the unsafe building department. We received a letter which we distributed to you all. And the reason, and right now, that is, the only lawsuit that we have right now is the appeal of the unsafe determination by the Board of Works. However, DIY LLC, which is, that entity that owns the Dearborn Plaza buildings there, has filed a tort claim notice October 14th of 14, and those claims do include the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission. So I guess we're here tonight to decide whether or not you all have an interest in getting the property back, or I don't know back, we haven't ever had it, but getting the property. There was a couple things I wanted to note. I did have Lonnie pull some minutes. June of 2012, there was direction. June 18th of 2012, that meeting, there was a motion to proceed with appraisals on the Dearborn Plaza.
Which I believe, correct, that was after, I think Grant had some conversation. Owners of the plaza.
The owner came to my office and spoke to the mayor and I and said that he wanted to sell it. Had to go to redevelopment, appraisals would have to be retained.
So you did not approach him. Has the unsafe building suit, has that been filed?
The
City
appeal has been filed. Where that sits now is it's basically in their court to set it for hearing with Judge, I believe Judge Blankenship, correct? I think that was the judge.
I'd like to hear where Carl stands with that whole process, of how you feel with your documentation, how you feel if it goes to court. Are you confident? Have any concerns?
Client?
And I believe in the conversation we had before, the health department is actually who closed Dollar General. Do you have documentation from the health department for that?
Mike, the meeting we had with them and their engineer and stuff too, their engineer, he admitted half the stuff that Carl was saying. I mean, I feel real good about Carl's report.
Reports covers exactly the problems that we've seen. Was 4 foot of sewage. That's what got it stopped. There's a lower level in there. That's what prompted the whole thing, the sewer gas. I believe at that time, me and Mr. Todd had made a walk through Dollar General itself. We took some pictures of water running through a service panel. I'll be honest with you, I don't personally shop there, but talking to the manager, this is an ongoing problem that they have. She was quite helpful. We took pictures, or I did at that time, of all the water that ran through the building and tiles falling out. And that's when the health department on the sewer gas was the first thing that I called. Then I believe when I walked through it, I contacted Leslie and I asked her to get me a right of entry before I performed any more tests. Right of entry was granted for testing of that property. That's Dollar General's statement at that time, was that they would stay closed until they got back to the results of the test. That was their main tenet, I would say. I've helped the little guy across the street here get his stuff up and off the floor so the rain wouldn't come in, and we were always being promised that they were there working. I'm standing on the property talking to Mr. Daniels or Akram, whatever, I don't know which is. Daniel Akrams, or Akram Daniels. And he was assured me that they're there working on the roof, and I'm the one standing, and I would inform him nobody's there. We had a incident where the roofer started coming after I got a report back, and I told them that they could do an emergency repair only at this point. We have a city ordinance about roof repairs and permits required. And because I made that statement to them, I said, if it's an emergency, go ahead and get your emergency work out of the way. I'll need to see something for a permit statement of work, how we're going to perform the rest of it. And that's the time when Mr. Daniels said that I ran these roofers off.
Yeah, I got a phone call on that too, and he explained to me just exactly what he said there, and I explained it back. At that time, it was Mr. King who was representing him. So.
We have a strict thing in Indiana. I'm not to design their building in any way, shape, or form. I've been accused of being unhelpful, not following up with my part, and I've told the contractor, get me a scope of work, get me a floor plan, let me see what you're going to go, where the aisles and everything are going to be back in these stores, an electrician, a HVAC, and a plumbing guy, and then we would sit down and talk. But I can't do anything until I see those things in front of me, which is class 1 procedures at all times. I can't go down there and say, you need to do this, 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 and this until after I have a set of plans handed to me.
And those set of plans, correct me if I'm wrong, have to be approved by the state of Indiana.
Their first set, Leslie, could be something that they came up with. And after I seen it, they would end up being sent to the state. But I've never got anything.
Does anybody have any reason this board should pay more than the average of 2 appraisals for that property?
Well, and actually, right now, we don't know what it is right now.
Well, I'm saying at
Yeah.
the time that the
In
appraisal was
2012, it actually, the average of the two, he misstated it, was 805. Because one came in at 815, one came in at 790.
done, which today is going to be less, sure, since it's not in business.
Now, the other thing is, Mike, is that we don't have to do
Makes
the
sense.
average of the two as far as if we, this is a settlement. Now, whether or not that comes from, internally, we're gonna have to figure out if that's gonna be from the, city coffers or redevelopment coffers. Either way,
Well, I
if it's Board of
understand that.
Works.
I just don't, with Carl doing his job, and I have a lot of confidence in that Carl's done his job, I just don't want to set a precedence that, okay, we're threatened with a lawsuit, let's buy the place to make it go away. The board was interested at the time at the average of 2 appraisals, and if that's what the board chose to do, that's what the board chooses to do. I just have a problem with paying more than it's worth for that very reason. You know, one, right now, there's not a use for it. But the biggest thing is, what's gonna happen on the next building that happens? They're gonna come and want us to pay them off and make it go away. So at some time, you gotta make a decision to stand your ground.
Mario, do you have any idea as far as the amount it would cost us to demolish the place? I mean, if we follow through with the unsafe and that's where it goes, where it's gonna be in our hands to demolish it?
Well, Carl may explain to you, we wouldn't tear the whole building down, correct, Carl?
Right.
The only portions we would tear down are the unsafe portions. So it may just be, you know, the back half or a corner or whatever, we wouldn't take the whole property down. You know, common sense would tell you the properties or the structure's a structure, but that's evidently not the case,
Well,
per our ordinance.
per our ordinance, you can remove the unsafe part that would be the immediate danger.
What about the walk around area on the outside where all that stuff's coming out? Would you just take all that out and leave it open?
The soffit and the overhang there, again, if it was deemed unsafe, that'd be what we do, is take out those portions of it. Now, their structural engineer, per the hearing that we had for the Board of Works, said it was structurally sound, and that's why I was making the argument, it may be structurally sound in engineering terms, but it's still unsafe. In other words, you can't have ceiling tiles falling out on a patron or a customer, that's
Or a
unsafe.
wall falling down?
Yeah.
Well, can't we attach something to the property if it sells?
If the city has to go in and remove part of it, for being unsafe, and attach the tax on an,
According to our ordinance, I guess it allows us to lean in on the property.
And then if they don't pay it in a certain amount of time, I would assume,
And I don't know, that'd be her. I don't know how that works on paying.
Well, if they wouldn't pay the taxes, then there's a tax sale.
Okay, if we go in and tear down the unsafe portions, that leave them with an unusable building that they'll throw another lawsuit on us
Well,
because,
anything's possible. I mean, you know, first would be our determination what's unsafe. So in other words, if you've got two holes in this building, they're gonna have to do something to accommodate their use of the building. So would that be whatever it costs to fill those two holes in? You know, I guess you could sue for anything or try to, if that answers your question or not.
well, we're being sued for redevelopment now. We didn't have a thing to do with it, so, I mean, I can see another lawsuit coming at us if we do tear down the unsafe portions.
Well, I'm sure there's gonna be some probably pushback from the owner if,
Well, there would definitely be if we went in there and tore out portions of this place, and then he says, you know, they had my whole thing down, and I've lost all this here in all that time. These other shops that could have been open.
I think probably one of the things that we're overlooking too is we've got sinkage, or whatever word you want to use, the parking lot's just falling away, that leads straight through the building. How do we, I mean, do we end up with one of these Chevrolet dealerships where one day it just caves in and it's gone? I mean, so
Especially
that,
if you go in there and start taking part of it out.
that's what I'm saying.
well, see, that's the other argument. When we take the unsafe portions down, it says, as he's saying, if there's deflection or you have some settlement, they're gonna blame that on the pieces that we have taken down. In other words, they were fine until we touched it. That would be probably the next argument.
Are we able to place fencing around the whole building so the public can't get to the building and then put a lien against the property for the cost of the fencing? That way we're not touching this building, but it's preventing people from getting to the building.
Well, and I
Talked about that.
brought that up just today.
Earl, is there a timeline with which we gotta react in?
Yeah, that's, me and Joe's had this conversation. I don't feel that, we go through our process here and we walk through our ordinance, step by step. We have a ruling in here for 10 days, he has a chance to appeal it after the Board of Works hears it. Me and Joe have had conversations, I said, well, you can't just file a lawsuit or a variance hearing and let it go on indefinitely, but, I mean, we can't, I don't know where that area is at. Because that was, 8 months ago, that we had a Board of Work hearing.
And I think even at that hearing, at that time, there were some other things brought out, the windows at that time, I think I said they were unsafe, and I think people probably driven by and saw the windows blew out of it, over the Christmas Eve, I think it was, actually blew out at 5 o'clock in the evening, so you can imagine if they were still open with the mess that would have caused.
My thoughts is I would go back to them with, we will be interested in it appraised like we was before, and that's all. We would like to have it appraised, and we'd make our decision after it was appraised and take the average.
I mean, the appraised now.
But anything other than that, we'd see them in court.
So the ordinance does say we may take down the unsafe part, right?
It's our responsibility at that point. Once he's exhausted the variance, which would be before a judge over there, once he's exhausted that, she makes a ruling, then it's our duty to remove it or his.
And that's what we're waiting on now.
Right.
But it'd be probably,
Any date for that?
And that's my reply. How long does it last?
That's a barge or a building. You take sections out of that building's gonna rack, so the rest of that building is gonna be useless to you. I mean, it's all tied together. If you start taking pieces out of that building, the rest of it's gonna be unsafe too.
The building basically is like 2 big steel buildings put together with 3 small connects to it.
so would we,
Like
so
Aaron was asking, does it say that we shall remove it? Or,
make it,
if we just fence it off
Fence
so
it
people
in.
can't get to it, is that?
That would be a board's decision at that point. How the board decides to keep the public safe. But it says remove portions or all of the building. I mean, it goes pretty in-depth on what we can do to protect ourselves.
But would it qualify, as he's asking, if you had the fencing 20 foot back from structure all the way around it, that would make it safe in my eyes anyway. I mean, you've done your best at that
Safe
point.
to the public.
Yes.
Well, okay,
Get to it.
let me ask you this. If we put a fence up there and some 14-year-old boy decides to jump over there and get in that building, he gets hurt, who do they sue? Us or the owner?
Well, I think the answer's probably gonna be both. But I think you've done everything in your powers to make that property safe.
On it and signs.
Yeah.
No trespass.
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be in favor of putting a fence around it and, leave it set there till all this other settled. Let him think on it some more.
What do you think, Aaron?
I think so, and if we want to recoup the money, we can put a lien on it for that, instead of tearing into the building and getting more deep into the project.
Yeah.
Guess it all depends on if you guys have any future plans for that. If you do, if you think it's something that the city, I don't know.
We gotta watch how we say that though, I think, because we go saying we have future plans and we've talked about it before and stuff, we're gonna put ourselves in the
That
box.
hurts us in the lawsuit.
Well, I don't mean, I just
Well, I
think
think
if there's
you're-
any
We see that
interest at all.
we see that it's a blighted area like we have done other structures in this town, and we're interested, are they gonna fix it up or?
Well, I think the board's already expressed your first concern, safety, is the public safety.
Well, what if, you approach their attorney, just ask them, would they be interested in selling it for the average of 2 current appraisals? And if they're not, then there's no sense in.
Well, and we thought too that part of it could be, that we would require them to demolish it.
And I think it should definitely be them remove the building.
So, yeah, we can, I'll need a motion, but yeah,
What do you think, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but have them tear it down too, because they can probably do it
well
for
then,
less money as well.
I do think that there would have to be some difference there, because I don't know how much it'll cost them.
Well,
It costs them a lot less to do it than us.
Yeah.
Correct, correct.
Well, can they appraise it with the building being removed? Can they bring their appraisals in on that?
Sure, they can appraise it as a vacant
Both.
lot.
Because to me.
Or they can appraise it with demolition
Both.
costs,
I would ask for
right?
Because in the shape it's in, I would think it's gonna appraise more empty as a lot
Yeah.
with the condition to it.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen before, you're right.
We just take the
And
appraisal
include the
now.
demolition costs?
Now, what Mike had said, you know, it may appraise higher, less the structure.
So maybe we can have it appraised both ways, see how they come in.
But Mike, we don't wanna, if the average of two appraisals didn't have to put another $250,000-300,000 on to tear it down.
No. It wouldn't. I mean, if we make a motion that the only way we're gonna purchase it is with it demolished, it's to see what the greater value is of the property. Either with the building on it or with the building on. So you're basically paying them the most the property's worth, one way or the other.
I'd say it's probably worth more with building off of it, but let me ask you this, Mark.
And there's some scrap value there also for whatever the demolition side
Say
there.
the building's gone, what about the ground itself? Do we have to dig that whole thing up and bring different dirt in,
It's a
clay
mess.
dirt, or
You're saying after we purchase it?
after we purchased it, how much would we have to put into it to make it buildable?
My suggestion would be just fill it and make it safe and let a developer either purchase or take care of everything from the ground on up.
But
Another way to look at, what about getting a meeting with Proximo? Would they possibly be interested in it to where we could put something together, they purchase it, you know, and kind of, they're expanding and.
I'd hate to see another warehouse, my own personal, I'd hate to see another warehouse sitting there.
Wiping out houses left
But if
and
it's
right.
jobs is jobs.
we talked to Proximo, they wasn't interested at the time.
Well,
I tried to get him to buy it. He wasn't interested.
Weren't they renting part
You
of
might
it
look
already?
too, that land is a lot of sawdust, guys, that used to be a sawmill years and years ago. So that's, somebody grounds unsuitable.
To kind of expand what Mike was saying there, as far as the demolition being required, I would say the site would have to be safe, so the holes would have to be filled in after demo too.
So as far as the appraisals go, you'd want them, the direction from the board, appraisals as if it were demolished, or with demolition costs, or?
I would get appraisal both ways.
with it demolished and sowed and grass.
Do you want that shovel ready?
Well, I think you can say that.
I wish we could.
You can't get
But
that.
I say, I mean, if it's sowed in grass, there shouldn't be any holes or,
Right.
you know.
Shovel ready would be all the way up to the road.
Well. Not really.
Yeah, and just for Russell's clarification, or they appraise it as is, also do a second appraisal,
Vacant lot.
owner demo the building and add it.
Isn't
That
it
way,
or
as
vacant lot?
Mario stated, you can see, where's the property most valuable?
Because to me, that shows the other side. We're trying to be fair and show the greatest value of the piece of property.
Almost have more appraisals.
What about the hazard of the town?
Subsurface area, I don't think we can get into that right now. That's something.
If we
just
appraise it with the
about
building on it, they come
later
back.
on, if the building will demo.
And that's the only.
You almost need a plan to put on the site.
But still, your offer would still be with the building removed.
Okay, so
And then that's up to them.
now, just to let you know, the first appraisals that we did review, the one was done by Pillar Group and the other one was done by Jeff Thomas. You remember, Pillar Group is the one that does the commercial appraisals out of Cincinnati, and those appraisals are expensive. The only other thing I can think of is to try to find a different commercial appraiser around here, but that's historically who we've used when we had commercial ones was Mr. Thomas, because he does do commercial, and Pillar Group, but we don't necessarily have to do Pillar Group. Now, the thing is they may, because they did do one in 2012, and this would just be basically an update, right? I don't know if they would cost as much, but.
The two companies, that's the same two companies then, Filler and Thomas?
I would say go with the same two companies, so, you know, so it doesn't look like we're trying
Okay.
to dig around.
I guess I need a motion then.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
Do we need a motion for the fencing first? I mean, that was our, or,
Well, I
Are
think
we
there's
waiting
time
on
on
that?
that because we gotta wait until it goes to court, correct?
I don't personally see it that way. I think the building is deemed unsafe. We had a hearing.
And
It's his job to prove that it's not unsafe.
And as long as they don't do anything on this appeal, I mean, we've already, it's deemed unsafe right now.
Well, I hear the conversation going on over there. I think that would fall back to the Board of
Board of
Works.
Works, yes,
So they
yeah.
would need to address that.
I think that the unsafe building department would probably, it could go either way.
Maybe we just,
I could order it based on
your conversations today.
day. I mean, that can come out of that department,
You probably say you're gonna go ahead and do it and put it back to the Board of
and
Works.
I'll bring it back before the Board of Works is under my report. This is what I've done.
That you recommend to do that.
Yeah. But it could fall under an emergency plan. I mean, 'cause me and Mario, I mean, we've kicked every seal plate in that place. The rest of the windows are ready to blow out as soon as the right wind hits.
Well, we're gonna end up with kids in there in a fire or
I'd
something.
suggest two separate motions.
Well, like he said though, I don't think this board needs to do the motion on the fencing because at this point,
So,
They could do a recommendation.
they could do a favorable recommendation to the Board of Works or to the building department.
I'm some move to fence it, send it to,
want to recommend to the Board of Works.
with the favorable recommendation.
Motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
second?
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we have another motion for appraisals.
Also move, make motions for appraisals, both ways we discussed.
The Tiller Group and Jeff Donald.
Yes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Got it.
And I believe that Leslie, you want to bring something up about the event center?
Yes, and I did actually have Jackie post that. She had already sent them out to you as far as, it just said tonight for this, but we did have it posted out there just so.
Set that fence
The event center was included. This is, on the Schindler matter. This is, just to refresh your memory, Schindler, it was the contractor that, installed the elevator and the escalator. If you remember the elevator, the basis of the design was Otis, and they said their system did not reach the same distance as Otis's design, so the owner should supply the disconnect. That's basically what their argument is. Our argument is that the it's a non-complete system because it wouldn't go all the way to the top and it was not brought up at the scope review meeting, which is the very first meeting after the bid, correct? And there were no qualifications or clarifications accepted in the bid or in the notice to proceed, meaning they couldn't submit a bid and say somewhere in there, we're not doing this. Part of their contract, which I meant to bring the whole thing, but it was huge. All of the contracts with any of the contractors at the event center, no qualifications or clarifications were accepted. So, they don't agree with that assessment. The other one is the escalator, which is the cladding, which is the part that closes off the mechanicals on the sides. Their argument is that specifically excluded from their bid, the same as what they said above, but it was, again, not mentioned at the scope review meeting, and there was also no qualifications or clarifications accepted. We did replace the cladding with drywall because of a time issue, and there was a chargeback. The most recent chargeback, and Mario, if you can help me, but I think the most recent chargeback, or what we quoted in that, was around $27,000.
For we had asked or looked at stainless cladding, side rails you see in most industrial and commercial applications. Due to the rush, we end up putting drywall, so you see painted drywall on the side of the escalator. And I think that value costs, was it
22,000.
Yeah. The
Okay.
premium was much more than that for stainless, I believe.
And wasn't there also like $13,000? Did you read the most, I know you just got back today, but there was a most recent email, that stated there was 2 other things that they haven't allowed. Were those credits to them, or was that something they
I have
had?
not seen, I think it was Friday's letter. I have
Okay.
not seen it.
Doesn't this fall back to structure point? Design?
Well, no, because it was spec'd in a standard, which in the bid documents,
That they just didn't fulfill, and that's why we're going back on Schindler, the provider of it. And that's what these outstandings are, is those difference. The elevator, we asked for an Otis to be the example. They needed to quote apples to apples. Well, their elevator, no pun intended, didn't go all the way to the top floor without having an extra disconnect added to electrical disconnect to it. So we feel they should have provided that disconnect, not the city.
And that's.
But if their argument is correct, when they go back to structure point?
Did Structure Point sub it out to them, or
No, again,
Well,
give them that
because
contract?
the way I'm taking their argument, they bid it off of the design.
off the design, per the Otis spec, so,
No, but that's Otis.
yeah, per the Otis specs.
Even though Schindler is a different manufacturer, they, as the design team, decided to use Otis as their,
Example, more or less,
what
yes.
they had to do.
Yeah.
And the
So
Otis
that'd be
elevator
equal
did
to
go all
or-
the way to
or
the
better.
top.
So it wasn't equal.
No.
It
No.
wasn't. So I have had conversations back and forth. We sent our letters. You guys got a copy of the last letter at our last meeting we sent to them. The response I received from their attorney, was they were intending to pursue mediation and if necessary litigation to resolve the matter. But in the interest of at least exploring whether the cost of litigation can be avoided, they are willing to resolve, the dispute for $7,000. So I needed to bring this to you. And I also, and I did tell him he needed it by last Friday, and I told him that would be impossible, but that we did have a special meeting today, and I can get it on the agenda. I didn't know if there was any counteroffer to that as well, which I could take back to him.
That ain't
The thing
even
is
half of it.
that, if it does go, I am intending to get CPS involved with the mediation part of it.
So we're within $7,000 of being settled up with them.
So, yeah, so our demand, which was the total amount due, correct?
Correct.
Which was 22,000, or
Correct.
right around there.
I think it's a little bit more than that, yeah.
Just remember, that's less than 40 hours of attorney fee.
It's 50/50.
So,
Well, and not to mention construction process solutions, because we will advise with them if this is a mediation.
They had the not to exceed limit, didn't they?
Yes, I did bring that information to, let me see here, hold on. I thought I brought the whole book, but, here it is. Yeah, they would just assist with a review of the claim costs and assist with mediation preparation and settlement ranges. But I don't know that I think they had done the whole, I'm sorry. No, they didn't have any hours on that one, calculated hours. The hours that they had was on the extended general conditions and the errors and omissions claims. But I do remember when we talked with Mr. Coles, I think that he didn't see this as taking up a whole lot of time. Like I said, it would just be preparation for construction mediation.
What's the original amount? 27,
22.
22?
And was there another portion?
And that's for both the escalator and the elevator.
I'd go
You're
halfway.
gonna spend, you know, in attorney fees alone, you're gonna spend,
Well, they are too.
Yeah, they are top.
I know, but our job is to look out for our people's money.
I
Yeah.
think we go back.
Well,
with
it's
11,
just an
they'll
offer.
accept it.
It's
So
a
they only
count.
asked for 7.
Don't give them 11.
They only asked for
Oh,
7.
Wait a minute, no.
No,
I got
initially
this
they was
backwards. I
at
thought they were
27.
giving,
Initially they was at 27.
Oh, they
They've
want,
come down to 7.
oh, I'm
No, what
like
they-
you.
what they-
backwards. I've got
Yeah.
it
What they
backwards. I
said
thought they
was,
were wanting
they offered to
offer
give
us.
us 7 to
Oh,
compromise.
I'm bad.
then I'll make the motion.
But there's
to
no
accept
reason,
7.
no, I mean, if you wanna offer, because like I said, our demand was 22. So if we came off our demand to whatever you want, I mean, it may be that they'll agree, but
Because this is for them to pay back to us,
correct.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So they're offering 7.
Pay back to us.
Right.
That's
So
what- okay, so
I would
we had it
counter
right
offer-
then.
Yeah.
I'd counter offer 11 to pay back to us.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, I'm glad we don't have that kind of problems with your buildings.
He said he's glad we don't have that problem with your building.
Single story, right?
God. I'm telling you what.
The only other thing is I did send out
That
emails
structure
to you
point
all,
build shit anymore.
and this can wait to the next meeting if you want,
When was
but
that?
Mr. Seymour had asked that we try to get this closed for 517 Euphemia Street. I did prepare the real estate purchase contract and the warranty deed. I also do have Proximo's. Both of these were the ones that you guys agreed to sell for the $10 amount. So, Proximo already has Dearborn Title doing their title work, so they're okay with closing. And Mr. Seymour said that he wasn't gonna do any kind of title work. It came directly from the Greens, I believe, and the Greens lived there for over 30, 40 years. So, I guess if you guys are okay with, going forward with these, we can have Mike sign them and we can get them closed.
On the 517, I missed a few months ago at one meeting. Was that advertised for the appraised value and RFPs or just the appraised value?
Just the appraised value on 517. We did the statutory notice and offer, we did do. But after that, it kind of fell to the wayside. There wasn't ever an RFP done, but that's not required.
We've done on every other property in the past 3 years. I was wanting to make sure I was looking at it right.
And then on the Proximo one, we did do both the notice and offer and the RFP on that one.
The which one?
On Proximo Distillers, that's
Yeah,
the-
yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, 302 West East Parkway.
What, so move to move forward and sign them. This property's been sitting over, we've been dead for a year, 2 years over there. We'll get something going, get it on the tax base.
Motion on the floor, do we have a second?
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
All right?
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
It's not required. RSP.
Aaron Cook,
No.
Donnie Bryant,
Yes.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Hold on, Paul. Motion carried.
yes, sir.
And if it suits Aaron better, I wouldn't mind at all. I thought everything was ran, and I want it to be done too. I mean, I agree with him 100%. It is February, and if it wasn't done for the RSVPs, I agree with him, and I would not mind a bit if you put it in the paper, and I still want it. I'll still go about it the way, Leslie, but if I agree with
The
you.
motion was already done to sell it to you for the
Well,
$10 price.
I-
I mean, the board already.
Either
voted.
way, I'm good with it, but I just want Aaron to know that that's,
What's the board want to do?
We can rescind the motion and send it out for RFPs.
And there was nothing against you, Paul, just we We've done on every other property, and I missed one meeting, and I came back and I seen this, I didn't know what was going on.
And I thought it was all done until tonight. I didn't realize that one of them wasn't done. But to be
Yeah, I was
honest with
looking
you
at-
guys, any piece of property that I deal with you in, I feel like it's only fair that it goes through the whole process that we've been doing.
I appreciate that. Got a motion to rescind?
I thought that it went through the RFPs on our last meeting.
I mean, I can double check that, but like
We
I
did
said, I
ask- we
know,
did
in my
ask and you
file, what it
said-
said is, in 2/10 of 13, I'm sorry, 2/10 of 14 last year was when the notice and offer went in the paper, which is the statutory notice and offer. That went in there. But like I said, I did not see anything further. I can double check.
That's all I've got.
Or even
Yeah,
check with
I-
the register.
Yeah, I save it, I copy everyone and stick it in the properties folder.
I thought that I asked about the
I thought you did
RFP.
too, and said the RFPs were done. All of it was done.
I
That's why we voted.
I do know, like I said, was
was
the,
that?
the statutory, and you understand that the request for proposals, and I understand that's how the board has proceeded, but those are not required.
Right.
If you have somebody, that we noticed and offered back in 12, as long as we did that first notice and offer, we're good, we can deal with them after the
Right.
30 days, so.
We have a motion on the floor to rescind. Do we have a second?
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That way, every single property's been treated like.
Now, do we need a motion to send it out for RFPs?
Yes.
Make a motion to send the property on, what is it,
517 Euphemia.
517 Euphemia out for RFPs.
Second.
Have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Wes?
And just the proximate piece.
I want to make a motion to go ahead and close on the corner of, what's that street?
302 West Eads Parkway.
Now, this is where the Life Squad was, right? And that land originally was Seagram's anyway to begin with.
Well, it's actually next to it. Right down the second corner piece.
Where all them
It's got
trees
the
are planted
landscaping.
and everything.
All the
Okay.
way.
For the massage parlors.
Thanks for the reminder. I forgot what
You
it
know,
was.
part of it does say something about a barber shop too, right? You said something about a barber shop. It's in the full, it talks about
Happy ending.
cornice. There's a subject to easement of the projected cornice of the building, and that it would be extinguished should anything be erected on this property where the barber shop now stands. That was years ago. I mean, I don't know how old that is,
And
but,
the property's gonna stay the same. Gonna keep it like it is, but it'll be in the tax book.
and there'll be a sign
They said
sign
they were gonna
erected.
put a sign on it.
Yeah, they want to put a sign on it.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to adjourn?
You want to advertise as 519?
Yes.
Do we already do that?
Yeah,
Or
I
you
mean,
want- or do you wanna
I
do
had
it?
him sign the,
Okay.
yeah, it's got, I took that to the paper, didn't
Okay.
we, for the averages too. That was voted
Okay.
on last time. So if you want to go ahead and sign it, you won't have to come, if you'd rather do it now.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Mario.
RTE. This is right there.
I talked to Mike about it over there
wait
at
on this one.
that dog park, where that big old pond.
How are you? Good, how are you doing? So far, so good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This tells you what
Worried about his pressure.
what we currently bill. What do you want to do, and this breaks down what different rates are. It tells you here, so this would be our power plant rate, and load it down, and then we charge you the retail rate, so $16 million. So it breaks
Oh,
down.
okay, I was gonna say, I'd still like to be rough, I wouldn't wanna be slippery. It's just gonna eat up under it, that's all it's gonna do.
I think there was never a motion made to do it, so, yeah.
It would never got.
Right.
Back towards his, back